This episode is about the number 12 team on the Juggernaut Index, the New York Giants. Back in January, one day after New York closed an 8-8 campaign with a 37-point loss, team president and CEO John Mara declared that the season felt more like 2-14 to me. The Giants had lost 8 of their final 11 games. They allowed 40 or more points 5 times, and they were absolutely punished in weeks 16 and 17, losing by a combined score of 85-16. Not exactly the way a team wants to head into the offseason. I've been around a long time, Mara told reporters. I thought I'd seen everything. I certainly didn't see this coming. A few hours later, New York fired defensive coordinator Bill Sheridan. The move surprised no one. The Giants ranked 30th in the league last season in points allowed with 26.7, just behind the Chiefs and barely ahead of the Rams. In 2008, New York's defense finished 5th in both total points, 18.4 per game, and total yards per game with 292.0. The team recorded only 32 sacks in 2009 after placing 6th in the NFL in 08 with 42 and 1st in 07 with 53. Perry Fewell will replace Sheridan this year, and he's expected to revive the Giants' pass rush while somehow containing the high-powered offenses on New York's schedule. Honestly, division opponents are the least of Fewell's worries in 2010. His defenses will face the Colts in Week 2, the Texans in Week 5, the Vikings in Week 14, and the Packers in Week 16. Even if the Giants' D improves substantially this year, this team will likely find itself in a few shootouts. For fantasy purposes, that's a good thing. New York's offense averaged 25.1 points and 366 total yards per game last season, actually ranking alongside Indianapolis in both categories, 26 points per game and 363.1 total yards per game. Head coach Tom Coughlin may favor a power running approach, but he happens to have an excellent passing game at his disposal too. Eli Manning is coming off of his best NFL season, establishing career highs in every important statistic. Completion percentage, 62.3. Passing yards, 4,021. Yards per attempt, 7.9. Touchdowns, 27. And passer rating, 93.1. Eli also shares the Manning family's freakish durability, having played all 16 games in each of his past 5 seasons. As a fantasy commodity, he's a reliable player who costs very little on draft day, ADP of 94.0. Manning is the 12th quarterback selected in a typical mock at the moment. He'll deliver a profit at that price no matter what happens to New York's run-pass ratio in 2010. Fun fact, Eli's backup this season will be Jim Sorgi. It would be better if some lesser Sorgi brother could have the job, maybe Isaac or Pat, but no such luck. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Manning's big year is that Plexico Burress wasn't involved. Entering the 09 season, most of us assumed that Burress' absence would limit Manning's value and could potentially stall the offense. Instead, Steve Smith delivered more receptions with 107 and more yards with 1,220 than Plexico ever did in New York. And he reached the end zone 7 times. Smith finished 4th in the NFL in total targets with 157 and caught at least 7 passes in 9 games. In fantasy, we're drafting him as an every-week starter, ADP of 39.8, one spot ahead of the other Steve Smith, 40.2. Hakeem Nicks, the Giants' number 2 receiver, is generally off the board around later, 53.7. Nicks' big play potential was evident as far back as the preseason last year, and he's clearly a candidate for a breakout campaign. So much so that we're paying an expectant price. Among all NFL wideouts who caught 25 passes last season, Nicks was the leader in yards after the catch with 9.0. He's an exciting receiver, no doubt, but you won't be thrilled with the return on investment unless he makes a statistical leap. Mario Manningham is currently 3rd in the New York's wide receiver hierarchy, though he finished 2nd on the team in 09 in both catches with 57 and yards with 822. He's drafted very late this year, if he's drafted at all, ADP of 289.6. You'll certainly want to own Manningham if either Smith or Nicks misses time. but he won't open the year as a recommended fantasy starter. If you're looking for a sleeper, target second-year receiver Ramses Barden. He's an absolute giant, 6'6", 227, and he's reportedly had a productive offseason. Barden has the potential to be a legitimate playmaker and an uncoverable red zone target. He also has the potential to be a little used fifth receiver in a run-heavy offense. That's the thing with sleepers. Tight end Kevin Boss is recovering from ankle surgery, but he's expected to be ready for the opener. He's not a fantasy starter, except in the deepest leagues. Travis Beckham isn't challenging Boss just yet. The Giants delivered only a league average ground game last season after leading the NFL in rushing in 2008 with 157.4 yards per game. But when you consider that the injuries suffered by Brandon Jacobs, torn meniscus, Ahmad Bradshaw, both ankles and both feet, and Andre Brown with an Achilles, a league average finish actually seems somewhat impressive. And again, it's not like New York's defense set the team up for a consistent ground attack. Now that the backs have all recovered from various surgeries, Ahmad was actually enhanced with a few new metal parts. You can expect this team to refocus on the run game. New York's O-line wasn't as dominant last season as they'd been in prior years, but the unit figures to remain a strength. Jacobs and Bradshaw entered 2010 in a committee. Hopefully the arrangement can keep them both healthy. Both backs are solid value picks at the draft table, as Jacobs' ADP is 52.2 and Bradshaw's is 80.7. You really don't need to fret about who's the starter here, because neither player is expected to dominate the touches. It's worth noting that Bradshaw decisively outgained Jacobs on a per-carry basis last season, 4.8 to 3.7, while playing on peg legs. So let's end this Juggernaut Index where we began, with the defense. The Giants have changed coordinators. They spent big money in free agency on safety Antrell Roll, $73 million over or $37 million over 5 years, and they used their first 4 picks on defensive players. If they don't improve this season, it's not for lack of trying. We've ranked this team defense number 14 overall, which probably means this group will open the year on your waiver wire. Remember the schedule outside the division looks awfully rough. There's a lot of brand name talent here, however, and several roster-worthy IDPs. The players to target are defensive lineman Justin Tuck, also coming off of shoulder surgery, linebacker Keith Bullock, rehabbing an ACL, defensive lineman Matthias Kiwanuka, defensive lineman Osi Umenyiora, Antrell Roll, defensive back Kenny Phillips, returning from a microfracture surgery, and defensive back Terrell Thomas. Rookie Jason Pierre-Paul will eventually be an IDP factor, though not in week 1. He's a monster athletically, but he's a project. And with that, we encourage your comments. Surely there are a few optimistic Giants fans out there, ready to begin a thoughtful dialogue.